If your family forced you to live in a van, how long before you lose your mind? Sleeping on floors every night? No privacy?
Those kids are sleeping in literal coffins.
Toilets out in the open? Forced to work to keep your parents' dream alive?
We had a horrible day today, so we decided to make our 14-year-old set up the camper for us.
And while parents keep pumping out more kids and more content,
because there's no...
I'm trying to record, Daddy!
Not even pets are safe. This is van life. Many of these influencers thrive on quiet kids and smiling footage, but now the kids are finally speaking up. My mom is a total because she abuses us off camera. So, is this really minimalist living or confinement dressed up as wholesome content? Van life. It's a lifestyle where the open road is both the journey and the destination as people abandon their permanent homes for vans or campers remodeled with kitchens, beds, and even bathrooms. The reduced cost of living and travel was perfect for young adults or retirees. But was it perfect for children? What happens when you mix high-energy, still-growing children with a lifestyle known for unstable routines and lack of resources? Being the romanticized image of freedom and simplicity, van life reveals a troubling reality. Let's talk about family number 1, the Peachy family. Brighton Peachy, a mom of 3 and former ER worker, turned to nature after a distracted driver hit her family, leaving her 18-month-old son with injuries and herself with PTSD. So, to help with recovery, they began walking trails, where her son eventually spoke his first words since the accident, bug. As Brighton put it, nature is healing. Eventually, the kids were back to their carefree selves, and Brighton started sharing their outdoor adventures online. Brighton wasn't shy about how difficult these outings could be.
Be prepared to embrace the mud, because there's no avoiding it. Have you ever gone halfway through something and realized it is just not working?
Still, she didn't agree with the criticism that this lifestyle put her young at risk. P.S. Your own neighborhood isn't necessarily safe either. You're more likely to get hurt in your car than on your trail, Brighton wrote. Eventually, she left her job in the ER and became a full-time content creator. And given that her young children are a major part of her crew, she made sure that the school system didn't get in the way.
So a lot of people have asked why we wanted to homeschool, and there's kind of a bunch of reasons. So the first is obviously the flexibility, so we can travel, especially with my husband's schedule.
With her husband being the only one with a stable job, she admitted they were barely getting by financially. But to Brighton, money didn't matter. Time with each other did. Brighton also claimed that she was a better mom outside and that she found it easier for her to connect and be present with the children, without household chores getting in the way. But when Brighton and her husband decided to turn their lives into back-to-back adventures, the internet began to question, was what was best for the parents the same as what was best for the kids? After converting their van into a camper, the family of 5 were ready to take their adventures on the road. Their fans were mainly happy for them, but there was one concern. Where does the baby sleep?
Here we ended up doing triple bunks for the boys, which I'm so glad we did. They're super awesome. This folds down to make it easy for them to climb in. Latches so they won't fall out.
When Brighton showed off the sleeping arrangements, the internet was shocked.
Those kids are sleeping in literal coffins.
Yes, many believed the parents were putting their thirst for nature first and the well-being of their children second. The bottom bunk is giving me a panic attack. I'd call CPS if I had to live there. Viewers were also disturbed by the obvious unequal division of space among the family. Then the parents get a king size. They get a queen and the kids get cubbies/coffins. But how did the children feel? Well, according to their mother, our boys love having their own little bunk, rather than getting shuffled to new hotels, Airbnb every night of a road trip with no routine or consistency. The bunks are big enough for them to sit up and play in. This setup might not work for everyone, but it works for us. However, despite these claims, some pointed out that she doesn't always value her kids' input, once admitting, "My kids complain most of the time when I say, 'We're going hiking,' even though they always have fun." Eventually, Brighton clarifies that her critics misinterpreted one key factor in these living arrangements.
Apparently, a lot of people missed it, that this is our camper van that we use for obviously camping, road trips, traveling. Just makes it way easier with 3 kids.
That's right, Brighton and her family had their own home. The camper was just for vacations. For some, This explanation was all they needed. But since they'd pulled their kids out of school to travel often, others still worried. Those poor kids. It would be nicer if it's a little bit bigger. Still, if the family wasn't doing van life full time, what was the big deal? This next family shows how even temporary choices can have lasting impact. Family number 2. The Happy Caravan. They consist of 2 parents, Amber and Mark, 11 children, and a musical legacy. Their talent even landed them a TLC show, Big Family, Big City.
Music is the heartbeat of our home.
It's a huge part of our family. It gives the kids purpose, drive, structure.
And it keeps them out of trouble.
They describe themselves as a lively crew of dreamers, explorers, and memory makers, always on the move. But behind the scenes, things were more cramped than cozy. Before they were on TV, and before their 11th child, the entire family lived in a 30-foot trailer.
How we sleep in the trailer. This is where the little girls sleep. It used to be a table, but it converts into a bed. Here's the couch, and Noah's sleeping on it. Here's where Enoch sleeps. Here's Elijah. He has a top bunk. Down here are Pearl and Naomi. Here's where Josiah sleeps. This is where Moses sleeps. And this is where Mommy and Daddy sleep.
Overcrowded was an understatement. Reports have shown that housing crowding can affect a child's academics, behavior, health, and long-term well-being. However, Amber and Mark weren't concerned with overcrowding.
Commented, why would you have a big family if you don't have enough money to give them each their own room or to give them more space? And I guess my answer is, when you have a child, it's an act of faith.
And for some, the mother's reasoning made sense. If your family is happy and loving, who cares how many bedrooms you have? Kids need love, not space, not things. But while love might be enough for some families, CPS might disagree. See, in certain states, overcrowding can be a sign of child abuse or neglect, making it grounds for intervention. And if losing their children wasn't enough to scare Amber and Mark straight, perhaps the comment section would do the trick. God doesn't get your family off the streets, you do. I personally have anxiety and ADHD, and sharing a room just with my sister was absolutely not fun. I never could decompress or ever be alone. Fortunately, these kids didn't have to be bound to a life on wheels forever. Despite all being homeschooled, the oldest 3 managed to earn scholarships. One even got into Juilliard.
Time to go to school.
After this, the family moved to New York City, and at last, the kids could finally live their lives in an actual home. But new problems arose. How did this big family live in one of the most expensive cities in the country when they previously couldn't afford a proper home?
This is Amber from the Happy Caravan. I'm a mom of 10 kids and we live in New York City. And today I'm going to talk about the most controversial thing that comes up in the comments and in like videos about us and stuff, and that is busking.
Busking is a form of street art that involves musical performances in exchange for money. It sounds harmless enough, so why was busking a controversial topic? Well, that came down to the fact that the children were seemingly forced to busk by their parents to afford expenses. Amber explained that busking has always been a group activity for their family. It began when Mark and Amber only had 5 children at the time, 3 of whom were old enough to attend a music camp in California. According to Amber, despite the children being offered a scholarship, they still had to pay $500. The camp manager suggested that Amber and the kids play in public spaces to earn the money. So together, the mother and her children earned the money performing. 2 weeks later, her oldest son needed a new violin teacher. The lessons were $95 a week, and her husband's reaction to the price spoke volumes.
He's like, Amber, you make me feel like half a man. Like, we can't afford this.
So, Amber had to be resourceful. Again, Amber and the kids started busking and made the money to pay for her son's first lesson. Since then, the family has continued to pay for music-related expenses by getting their kids to busk 5 days a week on the streets of New York, rain or shine, a choice many have described as panhandling and exploitative. Others added, they are young children unsupervised in New York City, and they play for hours on hours, even into the night. You can't convince me that all of them independently want to play instruments at that level, and all string instruments at that. And from what happened on the first episode of Big Family, Big City, it seems this comment might be onto something.
Then they asked the mom, like, do you force the kids to play instruments? And she's like, no, they love it. They absolutely love it. And then it cuts to one of the little kids being like, yeah, when we were born, our mom just chose what instrument we would play. They couldn't even choose what fucking instrument they wanted to play.
Those who witnessed the children busking also claimed they looked miserable. I saw them a few months ago performing in Port Authority on a Sunday. Just the kids, no parents. They didn't seem to be enjoying themselves. Definitely made me sad. Saw them performing around holiday time right by Rockefeller Center. I felt bad because it was windy and cold that day, and the poor kids were wearing tights and dresses. Dad was standing a few feet away on his phone. But with the children playing their instruments and lessons, at least Amber and Mark were able to save money to invest in a good home for their kids. Right? Wrong. See, following their daughter to New York City meant paying New York City prices, which ended up being $12,300 a month for a 2-bedroom home. But if you thought the happy caravan family was odd, this next family is even more peculiar. Family number 3. Wild family life. This unconventional family consists of 3 children, divorced parents Nadine and Sasha, along with an extra passenger, the mother's boyfriend, Alex. All in one van. In 2016, Nadine and Sasha decided to sell everything they owned to start traveling with their children, even when they were no longer husband and wife.
We were street artists before. We did big bubbles for children on the street. We earned good money with that.
Along the way, Nadine met her boyfriend, Alex.
My ex and Alex came along good with each other from the very first beginning.
Yes, instead of stirring drama, the parents saw Alex as a positive addition to the family who could help with responsibilities and childcare. In fact, they had optimistic takes on everything surrounding their van life, captioning one video, "Van life equals homeless? Goal, I have the most beautiful front yard with a lot of neighbors." And many agreed the family appeared to be living their best lives. But things weren't always picture perfect for the Wild family life.
We don't have an address anymore.
They worked online, on YouTube and Instagram, a job they took out of necessity during the pandemic.
I have 2 German channels. I know most of you think that's not the real job. That's fine with me. If you didn't try it yourself, you don't know. It's a hard job like everything else, like every other job. We just have the freedom to live and be wherever we want. That's the only difference.
But 5 years in a camper with your ex, your partner, and your kids isn't always bliss.
Sometimes I say f***, and also sometimes I cry, and also sometimes I say f*** and cry at the same time.
Scrolling through Wild Family Life's TikTok page, videos like this aren't only common, but they also often feature Nadine's boyfriend Alex.
When people ask how my mental state is,
sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be
and the tension leaked into their videos.
Stop trying to do everything.
And who the is gonna do it?
Despite previously claiming that their 3-way partnership made it easy to handle their responsibilities, Nadine captioned the video, "Men don't change during travels." So how are the 3 children being impacted by all of this? While viewers have urged the family to let their children have normal childhood, including enrolling them in school, Nadine responded with sarcasm.
Ew, this is so cringe. Guilty.
And even philosophy.
The only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion.
According to Nadine, they always put the kids first, which is why they chose van life.
Like, I wanted to travel, and I wanted the dad of my children to be with my kids, and he wanted, of course, to be with his kids as well, so we decided to do that together.
She even seemed to allude the kids also chose this life, writing, "Kids are capable of making decisions when it comes to their own lives," and even spoke for them, saying,
I mean, they love being in the car because when they open the door, they, have a huge, they have a lot of possibilities, opportunities. Like when we're at the beach, it's nicer for my son to play. He loves being outside. So for him, being in an apartment is not that good.
But at the same time, contradicted herself.
But they also appreciate having an apartment from time to time. It's, it's going up and down. He likes it now because he has more space. He's coming into teenage, so he appreciates that as well.
but he also has his space in the car. So he's just closing the curtain and it's his space. So
While a growing child probably has an increasing desire for more privacy, Nadine remained firm that this was the life her children chose.
we actually talk to our kids. I swear. We ask them if they're fine with what we're doing, if they like what we're doing, if they like what they're doing with us, you know? It's their lives too.
However, eventually the van life ended for Wild Family Life, for the safety of her baby girl who was learning how to walk.
There's not a place for a baby to be outside, actually, and during daytime it's super hot. The sun, like in summer, but also in winter, can be very hot during daytime, but really cold during night and in the mornings.
Now, what happens when parents don't consider their children at all? Introducing family number 4, Party of 6. They consist of parents Tiff and Ryan and 4 children. Unlike the other families we've discussed, these guys are full-time van lifers. It all started after Tiff was diagnosed with multiple illnesses and lived with PTSD from childhood abuse. It was a lot for anyone to handle, especially a mother of 4. So they made a change. Ryan left his corporate job. They lost their insurance, forcing Tiff to treat her autoimmune diseases holistically. They sold their dream home. They pulled their children out of school. And they started living in a camper full-time in 2020, documenting their adventures and homeschooling for the entire world to see.
But hey, we don't have a plan. We just do it, right?
Let's do it.
That's how we roll.
This was life-changing for Tiff. My stress is low. It was a lot taking care of a big house and pool. I don't set an alarm clock. The sun wakes me up. But while the parents downsized their lifestyle, did their children also downsize their childhoods? See, despite remodeling their RV to create their dream bedroom,
in our master bedroom we have a stackable washer and dryer and a king-size bed that has full storage underneath.
the children's sleeping quarters weren't nearly as extravagant.
Our bunkhouse has 2 beds where 2 of our kids sleep, and then we have a queen pull-out sofa bed where the other 2 sleep.
And it was as bad as it looked.
I usually sleep on my side.
But really, he has this table that we bought on Amazon. It's like for breakfast in bed, and so his feet actually go under that.
He seemed to sleep strictly in a fetal position to fit in his bed, which he'd likely soon outgrow. He couldn't even catch a safe night's sleep without being held by a net.
Yeah, I sleep with the net. It keeps me safe. Once I didn't sleep with it and I fell out of bed, so now I sleep with it.
All this while the parents dedicated a notable portion of the 42-foot Fleetwood Discovery motorhome to themselves and their king-sized bed. People were shocked, the parents once again having 2/4 of the RV. The kids sleep on a half a twin. The girls don't even have their own bed. Your kids don't have rooms. Strangers online were concerned. But what about the parents? Well, so far, they haven't acknowledged the public outcry. Instead, they focus on content that's catered to their religious beliefs, their travels, and their RV. They were, however, willing to share how they found ways to be intimate with each other while living in a confined space with their kids.
We have locks on our doors. We have a sound app. And then if you have ever been in an RV when we do laundry, the whole house shakes.
One user commented, "I promise you, they can still hear it," to which Ryan and Tiff replied, "I didn't realize you were here." Another user continued to argue, "As someone who spent part of my childhood in an RV, there's no 100% hiding it. The kids know, and it was so uncomfortable." Again, Ryan and Tiff hit them with the snide response, "I'm sorry your parents weren't good at hiding it." So far, a common trait among these van life parents is their tendency to either blindly dismiss criticism, respond with mockery, or simply ignore it altogether. But what happens when the refusal to acknowledge what's wrong leads one child to their breaking point? Next is family number 5, the family of Nomads. Jessica, the mother behind this van life account, once said,
"It's brave to make decisions that are hard and what is best for your family."
But her own family tells a different story. Their family consists of parents, Jessica and Garrett, 3 children, and 3 pet rats.
There's 5 people living in this camper, and typically when we show you guys videos, it's immaculate clean, and we wanted to show you what it looks like on a day-to-day basis.
And their setup didn't make living easy, especially for the kids. They had to pack the camper before every move.
Addison puts the ladders on the bed, TJ unpacks the storage containers and lays them flat on the floor of the bunk room. Grace and Addison put everything that's on the counters onto the couch or either into the sink so it doesn't fly around while we're driving. TJ takes out the trash. They get all their stuff that they want in the truck. They get in the truck, buckle up, and we are ready to go.
Granted, this was their RV before they remodeled, but did the upgrades make this experience any better for the kids?
In the back of the camper is where the kids sleep. Grace is 11 and sleeps on the top bunk. TJ is 9 and sleeps on the bottom. Addison is 14 and sleeps in this loft area up here. This bunk room is a major reason why we love this camper so much.
That's right. For their eldest child to get a good night's sleep, they had to climb and crawl to a mattress that they couldn't even sit up on. The kids even shared their bedroom with a large cage housing their 3 rats.
Our kids have 3 pet rats, and even though it's a small space, the rats still have plenty of room.
In their tiny space, they also shared a small washroom.
This is the kids' half bathroom.
And had access to their parents' bedroom for showers.
Our full-size bathroom, which is where we all take showers.
In comparison, the parents' bedroom was much more generous.
In the front of the camper, you go up the stairs to the master bedroom, where we have a walk-in closet.
Viewers had a lot to be concerned about. Baby, your children do not like this. I think most of the time the kids hate this because they don't get normal social interaction with their peers. I can definitely see these kids on a Netflix documentary in the future. But Jessica assured viewers, they have lots of friends. The RV community is amazing. The kids are having a blast. Some were even concerned about the rat's cage. They need proper ventilation, not with the plexiglass. Pneumonia fumes can get them really sick. They need a cage with enough ventilation. To make matters worse, severe weather was another concern added to their list.
In the middle of the night, we got a notification on our phone that there was a tornado watch, and we drove to a Buc-ee's so that we had a safe place to go in case there ended up being an actual tornado.
Still, there were many supporters. The stories your kids are going to be able to tell for the rest of their lives. But little did they know, this would foreshadow the dark outcome for one of their children, Addison. Addison was ready to leave their mobile nest and prepare for this change. Addison was cooking for the entire family for a couple of weeks.
And she has made the most amazing meals ever, and I don't think that I ever want her to stop cooking for us.
Seems like a heartfelt comment from a mother who wasn't ready for her child to grow up. That is, until you learn about the entire story. See, Addison was known to pick up the slack for their parents.
We had a horrible day today, so we decided to make our 14-year-old set up the camper for us. She did absolutely everything by herself. We didn't help her even a little bit.
But if Jessica was happy to give Addison adult responsibilities, and Addison was happy to take them on, what was the problem? After all, from the videos Jessica posted, it seemed the teen loved van life.
A day in the life of our 14-year-old Addison living in the camper. First, she wakes up and makes herself breakfast. Today, she had eggs. Then she does her schoolwork. It's all in line. She does her daily chore. Today, she collected some firewood with her brother. She loves painting, so she painted. Then she played her Nintendo Switch. We went for a family walk before dinner. Then she had leftover pizza for dinner. Then she got ready and went to bed.
Jessica even captioned this video, "Not a bad life for a teenager." And yet, was this teenager even happy living in an RV? For one, just listen to what Addison wanted for their birthday.
For Addison's 15th birthday, the only thing they wanted was to go to a hotel.
Yup, their present was a night with a real room and a real bed. And while this video was shortly deleted, Addison later came forward with some troubling insight into what their time living in the RV had actually been like.
But what a lot of people don't know is what goes on behind the scenes, and I think I'm ready to talk about it.
In September 2024, Addison opened up about a mental condition they have been struggling with since 8 years old, the same age they tried to take their own life and was admitted to a mental health facility. They were diagnosed with PANS, a condition that can cause sudden severe psychiatric symptoms. Addison didn't know what exactly triggered the symptoms, but it was clear Addison was suffering.
Basically, I would have psychotic outbreaks every day. I would try to attack my family. I would try to attack myself. I would threaten people, mainly my family.
At some point, it was no longer controllable, and they had to see a holistic professional who treated Addison to bi-weekly injections for 18 months. Soon after, the family of Nomads decided to travel full-time in a cramped RV.
My mom likes to say that that was the reason that we started. And I agree that was a great thing to do, to start maybe for like a couple days or like maybe a couple weeks, maybe just go camping, but not for 3 years.
According to Addison, camping full-time from 12 to 15 years old while they continued to struggle with depression, anxiety, and autism was not a good mix.
I ended up not having many friends. I ended up not being able to learn how to take care of myself. I ended up having terrible social anxiety.
Of course, this completely contradicted their mother's claim that the children had a thriving social life and learned life skills while on the road. In reality, Addison only struggled further and further.
So, it was April of 2022, I think, I had been diagnosed with an
Addison believed that their ED was impossible for their mother to not notice in the cramped camper, but allegedly, Jessica chose not to do anything about it until Addison came clean to her. On the verge of dying from malnutrition, Addison was sent to the hospital. Months later, in September, Addison had to be institutionalized again for 2 weeks. Then they were sent to a partial hospitalization program and an intensive outpatient program. After Addison was discharged, the family wanted to move on with their lives. But in February 2023, Addison's mental health started going downhill again.
I started struggling more with self-harming, and eventually I was admitted 3 times in 2 weeks.
Following their third admission, Addison was sent to wilderness therapy, an experience that wouldn't be erased from the teen's memory anytime soon.
There, we drank cow trough water that was bleached. We also dug our own holes to use the bathroom in. We built our own fires to stay warm. I was there from February 25th to May 16th, so it was prime Utah winter. And the snow was really high to some points.
Then, the day after they got out of wilderness therapy, they were sent to an autism treatment center, which they described as basically boarding school. Unlike wilderness therapy, Addison described the autism treatment center as
really nice.
However, it seemed Addison wasn't allowed to have nice things. Since the center wasn't covered by insurance, Addison was pulled from the facility 3 months early. In March 2024, they spiraled again. Addison was sent to 2 different short-term mental institutions and 1 long-term institution for 4 months, which they described as
the worst place I've ever been in, and hopefully my last.
Since then, Addison has been living with their grandmother. But while Addison's story made it clear life on the road could have devastating consequences for children, the teen made sure to add a disclaimer to the video.
I don't want to bash my mom. I don't want her to lose her followers, as this could lead to my siblings being hurt. This could lead to my mom losing her job and my siblings having nowhere to stay.
But what did Addison's parents do while they were going through all this? When Addison was hospitalized back in September 2022, Jessica made a video.
Addison was recently diagnosed with autism, and as much as we all love to travel, we had to make the decision to be stationary for a little bit to get Addison the therapies that she needed. Immediately following the autism diagnosis, Addison, Grace, and I flew to Florida, which is where we will be stationary for about 6 to 12 months.
Jessica made no mention of an ED in this video. However, that could be to protect Addison's privacy. After all, it seemed like Jessica was putting her daughter first, until she said this.
Honestly, it has really sucked being stationary for the past 6 months in Florida. I am so over this and ready to start traveling again. After 2 years of traveling prior to this, I just am ready to leave.
The mother sounded almost annoyed. Was it possible she resented her daughter for forcing them to take this prolonged pit stop? From her wording alone, specifically, it has really sucked being stationary. It felt more like she was irritated that she couldn't travel. One user commented, "Imagine how your kids feel," to which Jessica replied, "The kids love the lifestyle and they too are ready to get moving again." Of course, this wasn't the full truth. It was following this post that something changed.
The kids wanted to make hot chocolate for the holidays, and I got all of the ingredients at the store, but forgot to get milk.
This was uploaded in December 2022, just a few months after Addison's treatment for their ED and a few months before their next struggle. This would be the last time the teen was seen on her mother's TikTok page, at least according to the videos that remain. See, internet users noticed that posts were deleted from Jessica's TikTok and Instagram. Allegedly, Jessica revealed further details regarding Addison's ED and the treatments in these deleted posts, including videos and pictures of their recovery. It's also been alleged that the mother downplayed her daughter's ED, basically saying that she didn't care that her daughter was developing it. One Reddit user even claimed, "Mom goes ahead and spreads false narratives on EDs and starts to make a buck on her daughter's mental health struggles." This comment can be backed up with screenshots of the family of Nomads' Instagram stories. In partnership with Dove for the online safety of children, Jessica used Addison as a poster child for EDs, captioning the post, "Our family has personally been affected by ED triggered by viewing social media, and it's important to understand more about how we can raise awareness and be a driving force for change." Reddit users couldn't help pointing out the hypocrisy hypocrisy. Constant cameras in your face, and your life posted online for millions of people to comment on every single thing you do, you say, or how you look could be the reason. Maybe it's a sign she needs to stop blasting her kids on social media. The mother also allegedly posted a video defending her choice to send Addison to wilderness therapy, later deleting the upload. One Reddit user commented, "My heart breaks for Addison, and it's such a shame that her family is not only filming her while she's sick, but refusing to take responsibility for her condition." Another user claimed that Jessica posted the amount of calories Addison ate during their ED, only adding a trigger warning after she received backlash. The user noted that Jess also posted pretty regularly pictures of Addison with food in front of her, saying she's doing so good. "I would have relapsed so quick." It appears that Jess thinks EDs can be cured within 2 months. But was deleting these controversial posts Jessica's way of admitting she was wrong, or an attempt at a fresh start? See, after 2022, Addison was no longer a part of the family's social media posts. In fact, it was only in an upload in January 2024 that the mother acknowledged her oldest daughter's existence.
Tomorrow's my oldest daughter's 16th birthday, so I'm taking her brother and sister shopping for some decorations.
And people noticed. They act like she doesn't exist, and that's weird. But change was on the horizon as the family entered their most unexpected chapter yet.
Congrats on your new home, Jessica. Got the key. Oh yeah! It's unlocked. We live here. This is our front porch. We live here.
That's right. After living in an RV for 3 years, the family was moving into an actual house. But that wasn't the only change they were facing.
Okay, so most of you guys have figured it out by now, but yes, I am going through a divorce. That was actually the #1 reason why we stopped traveling after 3 years of living in an RV and being on the road.
Turns out, it didn't take a struggling child to make these parents reconsider van life, but a divorce. There was one other reason for all of these changes.
I'm 37 years old and in a relationship with a woman for the first time ever in my life after 2 failed marriages with men.
Yes, Jessica had come to the realization that she was queer, but despite the new relationship and the new house, one thing remained the same. Jessica continued creating content involving her children. For now, Addison remains the only child who has escaped this lifestyle, but not without scars. Of course, with van life, things could always be worse. These next parents will leave you asking, when does unconventional become unacceptable? Family number 6, Red, White, and Bthoon. Jen and Kyle were once a typical Florida family with 2 sons, Ethan and Ben. But everything changed after a tragic car accident on the way to Ethan's 7th birthday at Disney World. Ethan didn't survive. This took a toll on the couple. Kyle suffered depression and Jen struggled with PTSD. Still, they kept trying to push through. In over 5 years, they moved towns, started a pet grooming business, and added 2 more children, Molly and Eli, and 4 dogs to their family. In 2019, they started sharing their story online as Red, White, and Bthoon. But something still felt missing. So in 2019, after a summer road trip, they sold their dream home, converted a 1983 Silver Eagle bus, and by winter, hit the road with their family. The pandemic forced this initial trip to be a trial run, but by August 2020, they became full-time van life parents. But would life with 2 adults, 3 kids, and 4 dogs in a bus turn out to be a dream or a nightmare?
Can somebody, Molly, can you undo the light? She called me Ben. Why did you just throw that?
Needless to say, there isn't a lot of space. Still, they made use of what they had, even if that meant the dogs slept in cages.
And the race is on.
Woo! Theodore won today.
And the children slept in narrow bunks.
Love this area because the kids got to pick out their own fashionable wallpaper. So Ben got to pick his out, and Molly picked out flowers, and then Eli wanted stars.
This bus, however, wasn't solely to blame.
Alright, so it is the next day. Everything is up. Everything is mounted. I think that's pretty good.
Kyle had shaped the interior of their limited space, and maybe that's why the parents don't see a problem with the design.
Kyle's down here in Ben's bunk. I'm in here in Molly's bunk, and we have plenty of room. Like, my feet are all the way stretched out. Kyle, how are you doing down there? See, he's asleep.
It's worth noting that, despite Jen claiming her legs are stretched, the curtain blocks this view. Meanwhile, Kyle's legs are fully bent to fit in the bed. Still, if the parents say that they're comfortable in their children's bed bunks, then their own bed must feel like heaven.
So it takes Kyle a little while to get ready and up.
That's right. Despite the limited room on the bus, the parents managed to squeeze in a full room with a queen-size bed for themselves. Space, however, wasn't the only problem on the bus.
We are never getting back together.
From the bathroom to the children's beds and all the way to the parents' room, sheets were the only form of privacy provided. Yet, as the channel changed its name to Being Bthoons, signs of change were coming. And by 2022, it seemed the family had made progress.
Before, this space had triple bunks, and each one of them had their own bunk. But we decided it was really important for them, as they're growing, to have a bigger space. So let's go check out their bunks.
The kids finally had beds they could sit up in, with adequate storage space. Still, the family hadn't traded the curtains for doors, even in the bathroom, and the dogs stayed where they were, locked away. And while the changes might have made the children's area less claustrophobic, it turns out this wasn't the biggest issue on the Being Bthoons bus.
My life is a dumpster fire.
The bunks, I think they were made more for adults because there's no...
I'm trying to record, Daddy!
Moments like this had viewers questioning, were Jen and Kyle parents before content creators, or the other way around? After all, if this was a clip the parents felt fine posting online, what was happening when the cameras were off? Some even believed Jen and Kyle's thirst for online fame went beyond allegedly mistreating their children into disrespecting the dead for content. See, back in 2021, traveling vloggers Gabby Petito and her fiancé Brian Laundrie had a van life journey of their own, until Gabby went missing in August 2021. Around that time, the Bthoons passed by a white van that was similar to Gabby's.
But here it is on the left. So.
And I slowed it down so you can possibly see it a little bit better.
The footage ended up leading authorities to Gabby's remains, which would implicate her boyfriend, Brian Laundrie, in her murder before he evaded justice by taking his own life. Naturally, this became their most watched video with 2.7 million views. They were even asked to be a part of the case's Netflix documentary and hosted a live stream to talk about it. Since then, they've produced up to 8 videos dedicated to mentioning the case. And that's what left a poor taste in people's mouths, accusing them of capitalizing on the case. Why would your first thought be to instantly upload it to YouTube versus handing it over to authorities first? I really agree. They saw this as a publicity stunt. I couldn't believe they plugged their channel in the documentary. Yet, despite the backlash the Bthoons and other van life parents receive online, it's a small price to pay for the freedom to be wherever they want, whenever they want. But when does freedom blind you to your children's needs? Family number 7, the wild Thornbaileys.
We live full-time in an RV because it gives us freedom. When we lived in a house and we did the 9 to 5 and we did all of the normal things, the busy life, we had absolutely no freedom.
This family consists of parents Josh and Cassie and 4 children. They hit the road in 2018 after almost losing their son to type 1 diabetes and celiac disease. The uncertainty of the child's health made the parents regret the things they didn't get to see or do with their boy. If that wasn't bad enough, after their son's hospital discharge, Josh was replaced at his job. This had the couple realize that while they were working so hard to grow their careers, they missed out on what matters most.
So we did what any sane person would do, sold everything we had, including our home, and moved into an RV.
But while Cassie described van life as an upgrade from living in a constant state of high stress and cortisol, was the transition as stress-free for her children? Well, these parents might be sleeping soundly in their onboard suite.
In our master bedroom, we have a queen bed and even storage space underneath it.
Meanwhile, their 4 children were shoved into one room.
Come tour the kids' bunk room with me. There are 4 beds, so each of them have their own that they have decorated. They also have a bin full of their own toys, so it feels more like their own space.
Even after the RV was upgraded, bed sizes remained unchanged.
So we have Ellie's bed, Clara's bed.
At least for the children.
This is our bedroom. We have a king bed.
Still, Cassie claimed space didn't matter when their home extended into the great outdoors.
If we had to live inside our RV, we would probably feel a little bit more claustrophobic, but we don't live inside it. We only sleep there.
Yes, the Thornbaileys knew how to romanticize their spatially restricted life, and that meant even lying on the hard floor to watch the TV was reframed from uncomfortable into a core memory. As for concerns that the parents were ruining their kids' lives by forcing them to live in an RV and homeschool homeschooling them, well, Cassie claimed the consequences of in-person education could be much darker, listing in one of her TikToks school shootings, training them to submit and obey like good little worker bees, indoctrination, spending 90% of their day inside a toxic building, SA, and bullying. Still, the main concern viewers had about homeschooling was the lack of socialization, which Cassie also tried to debunk.
There is an entire community of people who do this too, with kids of all ages. We do field trips with them and life with them. My kids have lots of friends.
Cassie also insisted that, while her children's childhood wasn't traditional, that also meant they had opportunities other children didn't.
You're so right. My kids do sleep in bunk beds, but do you know what else they have? They have been to 28 different national parks around this entire country. They've been to Disney 42 times just last year.
Yes, her kids were seeing the country from Mount Rushmore to lava tubes. Most importantly, Cassie added,
they have 2 parents who are present and active in their lives, who love them more than anything. So yeah, their bedrooms may be small, but that's a small price to pay for a life as large as theirs.
According to Cassie, no one knew about all her children's needs better than she did. And that meant when they told her what they wanted, she listened.
Our number one answer is always communication and boundaries. An example of that would be Ellie today said, I want to stay home and have some alone time. So Josh took all 3 of the kids to the pool.
Still, viewers questioned whether this was enough. They're definitely going to want separate rooms as they get older, at least separating the girls from the boys. Another viewer speculated, this is simple while they're young, but it will change when they're teens. No matter what is said, they will never say it to please the parents. Yes, it's hard to know if van life children are truly enjoying themselves or hiding how they really feel to keep their parents happy. But as these children get older and begin making choices for themselves, some are speaking out. And the truth is darker than expected. In an anonymous Reddit submission, a former van life victim alleged, I'm the kid of one of those traveling RV families online, and I hate them for it every day. My parents decided when I was only around 7 years old, far too young to get an opinion on anything. Their parents worked remotely, with the mother being a content creator, and even though they were not famous, they got recognized since they grew up with the camera shoved in their face for as long as they could remember. Their living space echoed those we saw with earlier families. I sleep in a tiny bunk bed that I outgrew years ago, and the other bunk is the only space I have to put anything I own. I don't even have a room, just a curtain, and thank God I'm an only child. They claim to now be 18 years old without friends due to growing up with no permanent address. They also claimed that they had conversations with their parents countless times, but the parents are so delusional and genuinely believe that a nomadic existence is the best way to live. So why would they never need anything else? Adding, I hate them for treating me like some pet that they can just drag along in their plans rather than their child. Another victim painted an equally disturbing picture. I have no personal space. We only have around 40 feet of room in our camper and our mom is always vlogging in it. Though the Redditor had siblings, they were the oldest child, so they had the most responsibility, on top of being homeschooled. And again, socialization was an issue. I can't make friends because we are on the road most of the time. As I look the part and smile for the camera, they're happy. My mom also ignored. They ended their post with words of warning, urging viewers to please stop supporting these channels. There was also a publicized story by a former van life victim, Jenny McDonald, who also affirmed the effects of it had on her social life. As an adult, I still have trouble socializing and reading the room. I'm working on how to handle various peer situations at work, and I have only just mastered the art of small talk, Jenny said. Another highlighted the concerns many critics had about restricted academics and harmful sleeping conditions. RV is hell for children. I've been living in a camper with my 3 brothers and parents for the past 2 years. It has been an absolute detriment to my mental health. But I cannot recall a single positive experience anywhere I've been. I receive little to no education. I will probably be repeating high school once I turn 18. There is no privacy, and my 2 youngest brothers are forced to share a bed, a broken dinette, and my other brother sleeps on the couch, while my parents have a large California queen bed with doors. They ended the post with a harsh reality check for those considering van life. You are guaranteeing that you end up in a nursing home in your old age. But perhaps the worst of experiences? Parents who are evil off camera. This teenager claimed to be living, or rather stuck, in an RV with their siblings for about 3 years at the time of posting, writing, my mom is a total asshole because she off camera. My siblings are forced to be in the video exchanged for pocket money. Luckily, I blackmailed my mom and I no longer appear in the video, but my siblings are. I had a pet, but my parents gave it to my stupid sister. I have no say in this because it's for the fans. On top of this, van life isn't easy, even without children. You often have to relocate just to work, shower, or fill up on water. Many van lifers ration basic necessities, and constant travel means constantly dealing with sewage tanks and maintenance. So why do people choose this lifestyle at all? John Sundholm, a 45-year-old van lifer, puts it bluntly. For me, it was worth it. I could camp in the back like the weird hippie nomad I am. But John laid out the stark difference. Single, no attachments, not a parent. I can't imagine enduring even a summer of van life as a teen, let alone years and years. Depriving kids of friends, space, and proper education is literally considered neglect and abuse, and forcing them to star in your constant social media videos is exploitation on top of it. Yes, according to John, van life was far harder than it looks and no place for kids. And he's not wrong. Research shows cramped spaces can raise blood pressure, heart rate, and stress. Add in isolation and instability, and van life becomes a mental health risk for kids. So, is van life inherently bad for kids? Not always. Some families make it work with the right resources.
This is their new setup. They each get their own queen-size bed now. Yes, our two boys share a room, but they have plenty of space.
But when parents chase personal freedom at the expense of stability, privacy, academics, and community, the cost might just be their children's childhood. Consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. Your support means a lot to us and helps us continue to create videos like these.